Alright, so the warm-up is just what we did last class, which is just reflections and translations. So, Casey, how many lines of reflectional symmetry does a regular hexagon have? 6. Very good. So you have this one. Mine's not perfect. Very good. Alright, number 2. Divya, give me the point of A prime. Okay, A prime, it should be at 9, 7. Chris Park, give me B prime. What? 5, 9. And Ashton, give me C prime. 5, 2. Okay, make sure your notation's correct. Remember, we label our images with our tick marks to denote that they are the image. Okay, what do we call the image we start with? Pre-image. So remember, pre-image is what you start with, and after the transformation is applied, you end with your image. Any questions on reflections? Alright. Number 3. The vertices of triangle ABC are A is 5, 3, B is 2, 8, and C is -4, 5. Translate the triangle 6 units to the left to form triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. If I were to ask for this in coordinate notation, Devin, what would it be?
X, Y, yield to, X minus 6 and Y.
X minus 6 and Y. So our Y values are not changing. X is going left 6. So, Carson, what was A prime? -1, 3. Do we agree? Yes. Addie, what's B prime? -4, 8. Do we agree? Yes. And Madison, what's C prime? -10, 5. Very good. So do you see how we can do it regardless of whether we have a coordinate grid or not? Alright, number 4. The vertices of triangle RST are as follows. Translate the triangle 5 units to the left and 3 units up. Kenley, what would be coordinate notation?
X minus 5, Y.
Y what?
Y minus 3. Plus 3.
Plus 3 because we're moving up. So X minus 5, Y plus 3. Andrew, what'd you get for R prime? -5, 6. Do we agree with him? Somebody say no. No? Okay. Ethan, what is S prime? -3, 10. Very good. And Fernanda, T prime? -2, 2. Alright, so that was all what we did last class. Are there any questions over the warm-up? No? Okie dokie. Okay, so the toughest transformation to me is rotations. And the reason why rotations are tough is because there's 4 distinct rules that you just have to memorize. Okay? And we're going to spend some time taking time to memorize those 4 coordinate notations. When rotating, always rotate in a counterclockwise direction unless told otherwise. So counterclockwise direction. Okay, hopefully we know which way counterclockwise is. Follow these arrows. This is counterclockwise. Okay, and so when you rotate counterclockwise, you're either rotating 90 degrees, 180 degrees, 270 degrees, or 360 degrees. 360 is going to bring you back to where you started, okay? So you're really only having to memorize 3 coordinate notations because the 360 should be pretty easy. Or where you start. Okay. Quadrant 1 is where we are starting. What are my signs, meaning positive and negative? Okay, what are my signs and my x and y values in quadrant 1? Positive, positive. Okay, let's take the point. I'm just going to make it up 6, 4. I lied. It says it up here, 6, 4. Okay, so we are currently 6, 4. Okay, if I rotate this 90 degrees, I am now going to be in quadrant what? 2. What are my signs in quadrant 2? Negative, positive. Okay. I wish I had some patty paper so that I could show you guys how to actually rotate it and you could see it visually. But when you rotate 90 degrees, okay, it becomes negative BA. So over here we're at AB, or just X, Y. Okay, so what are we going to be at over here? First, just tell me X and Y. What's going to happen to my X and Y values after I rotate 90 degrees? Negative what? Negative Y, X. Okay, so what would my point be? Negative 4, 6. Very good. So plot that. So my original point was P. After I apply a 90-degree rotation, that's going to be P prime. Okay, now let's look at 180. 180 degrees is 2 rotations, and that's going to land you in quadrant 3. What are my signs in quadrant 3? Negative, negative. Okay, looking at our reference down here, what is it going to be in terms of X and Y? Opposite X and opposite Y, or negative X, negative Y. So where is point P double prime going? Negative 6, negative 4. So P double prime, negative 6, negative 4. Okay, so now that we've applied 2 transformations, you have 2 tick marks. Okay, and we're going to apply a 3rd transformation now, 270 degrees. So that's 3 turns. And what quadrant is that going to be in? 4. And the signs are going to be what, Kinley?
Positive, negative.
Positive, negative. Okay, our point is B, comma, opposite A. Put that in terms of X and Y, and what do we have?
4, negative.
X and Y. Y, negative X. And then our point P triple prime is going to be what? 4, negative 6. So plot that point. Alright, I want to make a little chart. Okay. A 0-degree rotation is going to be what rule? 0-degree rotation. Where you start, what's the rule going to be in terms of X and Y? X, Y, right? Okay. 90 degrees, what's it going to be? Negative Y, X. 180 degrees, what's it going to be? Negative X, negative Y. 270 degrees, what's it going to be? Y, negative X. 360 degrees, what is it going to be? X, Y. So do you see how we go back to the beginning? So the only 3 rules that you really have to memorize are these. I'm going to tell you how I memorize them, whether it helps you or not. I have no idea. but you can take it or leave it, and then we're going to spend time to quiz each other and try to make these stick before we move on. Okay? Anytime that it's a 90 degree or a 270 degree, so your two diagonals, okay, Y and X always switch. Okay? When you're rotating, 90 degrees comes first, so you're making your first coordinate opposite. Whereas 270 degrees comes after 90, so you're making your second term opposite. Okay, and then 180 degrees I think is fairly easy. Okay, and that's just the opposite X and opposite Y. Okay, so every other one, so if you were to make this chart on your test, every other one is switched. So XY here, then YX, XY, then YX, XY, then you'll go back obviously to the top. But XY, YX, XY, YX, XY. And then you just have to pay attention to whether you, which one's negative. So 90 degrees comes first, so Y is negative. Then 180, both of them are negative. 270, the last one's negative. Okay, so like I said, that's how I remember it, but it might not make any sense for you to memorize it like that. So take a minute, I'm going to give you 1 minute, look at those and think about how you want to memorize them. And then with your elbow partner as a table, quiz each other and see if you can pick up on the coordinate rules, okay, before we move on. Go. And if you think you have a great way of memorizing it, share it with your table. If you want to take time to make flashcards and just cut them in half at your table with the index cards, you can do that. Okay, once you think you've memorized them, quiz it with your partner or neighbor. And quiz each other and see if you really do know them or not. You'll have a skills check at the end of class today, so you're going to have to know the rules eventually, so make sure you're studying. We're going to talk about that. What happens when you do it clockwise? We'll talk about it. Yeah, so basically your 270 goes 90 degrees. 370 goes just switches. 180 will always be the same.
We just did this.
Alright, I'm going to quiz you. Okay, everybody can answer all at once. That's fine. Okay. 360 degrees counterclockwise. Same. XY. Okay. 270 degrees counterclockwise. Y negative X. 90 degrees counterclockwise. Negative YX. 180 degrees counterclockwise. Negative X, negative Y. Starting position. XY. 270 degrees counterclockwise. Y negative X. 90 degrees counterclockwise. Negative YX. 180 degrees counterclockwise. 90 degrees counterclockwise. 270 degrees counterclockwise. 180 degrees. Back to the beginning. Alright. I think we got it. Most of you have participated, so that's good. Okay. The only thing that can change is if they tell you to go clockwise. Okay? It's the same rules, but now your 270 degrees counterclockwise becomes your what clockwise? 90 degrees clockwise. So, you just work backwards. So this would be, so this is counterclockwise. And if it asks you clockwise, it's backwards. So this would be 0, 90, 180, 270, 360. So you just work backwards, okay? You have got to pay attention in the directions like Honest DBA or your homework or your skills check. If it doesn't say anything, it's always counterclockwise. If it specifically says clockwise, you've got to flip your rules, okay? So you have got to be able to identify in the problem counterclockwise or clockwise, okay? So if I were to ask you the rule for a 90 degrees clockwise, what would it be? Y negative x. 270 degrees clockwise would be negative yx. And 180 degrees stays the same. It's the same for both rotations, and obviously that makes sense. Okay, so we're going to practice doing both, but I just wanted to get you guys familiar with counterclockwise and then clockwise. Alright, number 1. Rotate ABC 90 degrees about the origin. Are we going clockwise or counterclockwise? Counter. Remember, if it does not say clockwise, it is always counterclockwise. Where is A currently? 4, 0. Where is B currently? 3, 4. C? 0, 2. Okay, 90 degrees counterclockwise. Challenge yourself. Try not to cheat. What's the rule? Negative yx. Okay, so our rule that we are working with is negative yx. So what is A prime going to be? 0, 4, because you can't really have a negative 0. Okay, what is B prime going to be? Negative 4, 3. And C prime? Negative 2, 0. Any questions about number 1? Okay, so we knew right off the bat that we were going to have to switch our x's and our y's, and then we are going to take our opposite y value. Okay, so again, we kind of talked about this last class. Make sure you get into the habit of saying opposite versus negative, okay, just to make it a little bit easier that you're taking the opposite sign. Not that all the values have to be negative. Okay, number 2, rotate B, which is at 3, 4. 180 degrees about the origin. Is that clockwise or counterclockwise? Counterclockwise. What's our rule? Opposite x, opposite y. So, Courtney, what's going to be B prime? Negative 3, negative 4. Andrew, do you agree with her?
Yes.
Very good. Okay, so as long as you know your rules, everything's pretty simple. It's when you don't know your rules that it gets a little complex. Alright, turn the page. Okay, before we do this, everybody all at the same time. 90 degrees counterclockwise. Negative yx. 360 degrees. XY. 270 degrees clockwise. Negative yx. 270 degrees. Y negative x. 90 degrees clockwise. Y negative x. 180 degrees clockwise. Negative x, negative y. Very good. Okay, rotate ABC, whose coordinates are la 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 la, 90 degrees about the origin. What's our rule? Negative yx, and as Kinley said, we're still counterclockwise because it does not specify clockwise. Okay, so, Avery, what would A prime be? Negative 3, 3. Ethan, what would B prime be? Evan, I lied. I looked at Evan and then I said Ethan. Evan, what would B prime be? Negative 4, 3. And now, Ethan, what would C prime be? Negative 2, 6. Are we starting to get the hang of it? Very good. You don't have to. The graph is there if it helps you, but just throws me off, to be honest, so I don't use it. Alright, so those are our rotations, okay, and like I said on Monday, your CBA is only going to have a few questions that require you to do one transformation, okay, the rest are going to be composition of transformations, which means it's going to maybe tell you to translate it, then rotate it, or reflect it, and then translate it, okay, so we're going to practice looking at compositions of transformations. So number 1. Plot the points A, B, and C to form triangle ABC. Then perform the following transformations. So everybody plot those 3 points. A is at 1, 6. B is at 3, 8. C is at 2, 10. And I'm also going to write mine over here. A is at 1, 6. B is at 3, 8. C is at 2, 10. I'm going to make a little chart. The first one is 90 degrees. What rule goes in 90 degrees? Counterclockwise. Opposite y, x. Then I'm translating down 3 units. What's that coordinate notation look like? Y minus what? Y minus 3. Okay. So I know after this I'm taking x and then y minus 3. Alright, so let's do all of our rotations first. So we're not even going to pay attention to this side. Okay. Lena, what would A prime be? Negative 6, 1. Very good. Rajul, what would B prime be? Negative 8, 3. Mirna, what would C prime be? Negative 10, 2. Okay, so now plot those points. So that was our first transformation, so they should just have 1 tick mark. Okay, now we're taking our new x, y values and translating down 3 units. So now we're doing x and y minus 3. So, Pooja, what would A prime be? Negative 6, negative 2. Amber, what would B prime be? Negative 8, 0. And Ishmael, what would C prime be? Negative 10, negative 1. Okay, so now graph that. Remember, this is your second transformation, so it should have double tick marks. Make sure your notation is correct. Okay, so do we understand how to do a composition that maybe requires a rotation and a translation? Okay, you don't have to make a table. I just think that it makes life a little bit easier. But the important thing here is to make sure that once you rotate, these are your new x, y values. You're not going back to A, B, and C and translating down 3 units. You're taking A prime, B prime, and C prime and translating it down 3 units. So I should have double tick marks on these. Alright, turn the page. What does the line x equals 6 look like? Horizontal or vertical? Vertical. Okay, hopefully you know that. X equals lines are vertical, y equals lines are horizontal. Okay, by yourself, I want you to do number 2. So you're going to reflect over the line x equals 6, and then you're going to translate up 5 units. So reflect and then translate. Alright, after the reflection, okay, so we're doing F prime. Emma, what's F prime? 8, 6. Very good. Fernanda, G prime. 10, 8. Kelly, J prime. 10, 4. Do we agree with those coordinates? Awesome. Madison, F double prime. 8, 11. Very good. Mirinol, G double prime. Stay with us. This is twice in a row.
G double prime.
Yep. What point is that?
10, 8.
No.
Oh, 10, 13.
10, 13. And J double prime, Addie? 10, 9. 10, 9. Very good. Any questions on a reflection and a translation composition? Alright. Number 3, point P is at 3, -2. Point P is at 3, -2. It wants us to reflect over the x-axis and then rotate 90 degrees. So we have P, 3, -2. We have a reflection over x. What is the coordinate rule for that? XY yields what?
Opposite Y.
X opposite Y, very good. And then we're going to rotate 90 degrees, and what's the rule for that? Opposite Y, X, very good. Alright, so if we're currently at 3, -2, and we need to apply the coordinate rule of X opposite Y, where's P prime going? Not 3, negative 2. We're already at 3, negative 2.
3, 2.
3, 2. So this is what I'm talking about with getting confused with a negative y. Get into the habit of saying opposite. If you start with a negative and you're taking the opposite, it's got to be positive. Okay? So do not just assume that because you have a negative in your rule that you're going to have a negative coordinate. Okay? Get into the habit of saying opposite. Okay, now we're looking at P prime, which is at 3, 2. And we're rotating 90 degrees. So where's P double prime going to be? Negative 2, 3. Okay, so again, when you're doing a composition of transformations, make sure that you look at the last image's point. So you're not always going back to the original. Any questions on number 3? No? Okay. Number 4, rotate DEF 270 degrees clockwise about the origin. So that's where I would have a highlighter out. Oops. And I would highlight that I'm going clockwise. So what rule is going to be associated with 270 degrees clockwise? 90 degrees counterclockwise, which is what?
Negative y.
Opposite y, x. Very good. So, what would be D prime? Negative 2, negative 2. Emma, what would be E prime? Negative 5, 1. Casey, F prime? Negative 1, 2. Very good. Okay, so let's plot those points. Negative 2, negative 2. Negative 5, 1. And F prime is at negative 1, 2. Alright, but we're not done. It says, what will the coordinates of the midpoint of segment D prime, E prime, the image of segment DE? So what would be the midpoint of segment D prime, E prime? How would we figure that out? Midpoint formula, which is what? Very good. Midpoint is x1 plus x2 over 2, comma what? y1 plus y2 over 2. So we're looking at D and E. So what are my x values for D prime and E prime? Negative 2 plus negative 5 over 2. And what about the y values? Negative 2 plus 1 over 2. When you simplify those, what do you get as your midpoint? You can leave it in fraction if you want. Negative 7 halves, right? Negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1 over 2. So your midpoint would be a negative 7/5, comma, negative 1/2. Star that one, circle that one, you will see that problem again. Okay, so we've got compositions, then we have compositions throw in some midpoint. If you don't remember your vocab from previous modules, that could be difficult. Okay, your midpoint formula is also on your formula sheet, so there's really no excuse for that one unless you just don't know what a midpoint is. Okay, but again, this unit is challenging in the aspect that if you make a mistake performing the transformation, then you're going to get something like the midpoint wrong. Okay,
Shouldn't it be 7 halves instead of 6?
Oh yeah, sorry. Thanks. Negative 7 halves. Don't know why I put fifths. Ethan, was that your question too? Sorry. My bad, guys. Negative 7 halves, comma, negative 1 half. Any questions on 2, 3, or 4? We're good? Okay, last page. one, I would star, circle, underline, highlight, whatever. Kinsey, perform the following pair of transformations on point M to get M prime and then M double prime. What transformations did she perform? Okay, so let's look at M to M prime. Okay, we went from 3, 2 to a negative 2, 3. 3, 2 to a negative 2, 3. I want you to think about that for 30 seconds. What transformation got us from 3, 2 to negative 2, 3? Think about it by yourself. If you already know it, great. If you don't, take time to look back at your notes. So we are currently in XY here when you're at just M. How did I get from 3, 2 to negative 2, 3? What happened to my X and my Y? What would be the rule? Carson? Negative YX. So do you see how my X and Y values switched and my Y became opposite, correct? Okay. What transformation goes with opposite YX? 90 degrees counterclockwise. Very good. So we know it's probably C, but let's double check. Then we went to negative 2, 6. In terms of X and Y, how did we go from negative 2, 3 to negative 2, 6? X stayed the same, right? And then what happened to Y? Plus 3. So does letter C match up? A 90-degree rotation, yes. And a translation up 3 units, yes. So that would be C. Alright, number 6. P is rotated 90 degrees clockwise about the origin. 90 degrees clockwise about the origin. What rule are we going with, Ethan? $90 degrees clockwise. Y negative X. So do we see how simple it is to make that mistake? Okay, make sure you distinguish whether you're going clockwise or counterclockwise. So Ethan, what point would P prime be at? 1 opposite opposite X, and so it would be 1 negative 3. Very good. Okay, what is another way that we could have gone from P, which is at 3, 1, to P prime, which is at 1, negative 3? What is another transformation rule I could have made to get from P to P prime? Can I reflect? No, because my X and Y switched, so that wouldn't work. 270 degrees counterclockwise, yes, that works. What's another way? Very good. So, coordinate rule of X, Y yields X minus 2 and Y what? Oops. Minus 4. That's another CBA style of question. So highlight, circle, underline, whatever. It would be a multiple choice question, okay? But you have got to be able to, again, know your coordinate notation. Any questions on 5 or 6? Okay, try number 7 on your own. Same type of problem. Try number 7 on your own. Alright, Courtney. What would your K prime point be?
3, 2.
Very good. Do we agree with her? Okay. So, Chris Kim, what would be another type of transformation you could have done? Very good. XY yields X plus 6, Y plus 4. Do we agree with him? What's something else we could have done? 180 degrees what? Clockwise. Very good. So again, the coordinate grids are there to help you. However, if you do not need them, you do not have to use them. Okay? Any questions on the notes before I set you free on the homework? Okay, before you start, turn everything upside down. Quizzing you one last time, because I know that sounds ridiculous, but I really do think it helps. Okay, 90 degrees clockwise.
Y negative X.
Y negative X. 180 degrees counterclockwise.
Negative X, negative Y.
Negative X, negative Y. 360 degrees.
X, Y.
270 degrees. Y negative X. 90 degrees clockwise. Y negative X. 90 degrees counterclockwise. Negative YX. 180 degrees clockwise. Negative X, negative Y. 270 degrees clockwise. 270 degrees clockwise. Negative YX. Very good. Alright. You have the 20 minutes to work on your homework assignment. I have the answer keys up here. 20 minutes to work on your homework, and then last 15 will be a skills check. It will cover all of your transformations.